ParentalRights.us.
LaDonna here on News Radio 600 Kogo, on iHeartRadio at Kogo.com. It's not normal for me to watch awards shows, usually because I'm kind of like a grandma and I have to go to bed. And most of the time they're pretty boring. Let's face it. It's self-aggrandizement sort of gets on my last nerve. I'm just I'm not normally a fan, but I love music. I love music a lot. And a friend of mine was actually getting married in that marriage ceremony in the middle of the show, or actually toward the end of the show. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to watch that. That sounds like something I want to watch. And I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought the Grammys were really entertaining. The awards, you know what? Those are neither here nor there. I don't really care about that. But the performances, I thought, were fantastic. The only one that I didn't pay any attention to was Beyonce, just because I am sick to death of Beyonce. Nothing personal. I'm sure she's a really nice girl. Just, I don't care. And her music is not my kind of music either. One disappointment for me was Katy Perry, who's actually a pretty good singer. But seriously, leave the pole at home. You don't need a stripper pole. You don't need to twerk. You don't have to show your hoo-ha. You don't have to do any of that. If you're a good singer and a good songwriter, just get out there and strut your stuff. That's what Lorde did. I found her to be incredibly bizarre. But, you know, when you're that famous at age 17, you're going to be a little bit weird. But she was wearing black pants and a white shirt and sang a song. John Legend. You know, I am pretty sure that John Legend did not have a pole coming out of his piano. It's the strangest thing. So I don't know what it is about and even Beyonce, I did see the outfit that she was wearing whenever she was with her husband. So she's dressed up like a scantily clad dominatrix, and he's in a really beautiful tux. Really, Beyonce? You couldn't just throw on a dress? Just throw on a little something and not show the world all of your stuff, which there's probably every guy out there is going, shut up, LaDonna. I get it. But, you know, as a woman, it really bothers me that the Miley Cyruses of the world, who also is far more talented than I expected, the Miley Cyruses of the world get all of their press for the way that they act and not for what they actually do. And that's really bothersome. At toward the end of the show, they did the people that we lost last year segment, and I saw Jerry G. Bishop's name flash up there, and I just was floored. That was so cool. Jerry G was on K-pop, I think, whenever I worked with him. And a nicer guy has never set foot on planet Earth. I'm not kidding about this. There are some not nice people in radio, and there are some incredibly gracious people in radio. And Jerry G. Bishop was one of the most gracious people that I've ever worked with. I was... at the time that I worked with him, and I'm thinking this was, holy cow, about 20 years ago. Must have been about 20 years ago. And I was doing traffic with him on the morning, and then he sort of brought me in as kind of a co-host a little bit, and I'd bounce back and forth between other things that I was doing and take part in his radio show. So he came to San Diego in 1978, and one of the reasons that he was mentioned in the Grammys is this is a guy who had a huge effect on music. Gigantic. He was a great host. He was like me in that he loved music. It was his passion. And he ended up going on tour with the Beatles. Jerry G. Bishop went on tour with the Beatles. Holy cow. He was smart. He was funny. He did an afternoon drive show for a while on KCBQ AM. He hosted this show called Sun Up. Stayed with it, man, until it quit in 1990. So I must have met him just a little bit, maybe 5 years after he had stopped doing Sun Up. And he was just a great guy. He had the Greek Cafe down at oh God, what am I thinking of? Downtown. Come on, LaDonna. Right there on the harbor. It's where the old police station is. Come on. I just am having brain damage now. Yeah, it was the Harbor Greek Cafe. And or Greek Island Cafe. I'm sorry, Greek Island Cafe, Seaport Village. Duh! I hate it when I do that. Don't you hate it when you do that, when your brain just stops? And I'm sitting there in my head, I can see Seaport Village. So he was on K-pop to be the morning drive host. That's where he moved in 1991. And I probably met him, I'm guessing, in about 1994 or 5. And just so kind. He was that guy, you know, and to see him get a shout out at the Grammys when I had never seen any Beatles play together, let alone, you know, we got the last two and they were just on the stage. And it was just a cool confluence of events. The Grammys last night for me were a really great mix of old and young. You know, there was a lot of hip stuff going on. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. I love Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. I just think they are phenomenal. And they ended up with a Grammy. They didn't even start off with a record label. Everything they did was by themselves. They are completely self-made. That is so cool. During the wedding ceremony, Madonna popped into the Macklemore song, and she didn't look well. Am I making sense here? She was stiff and didn't seem to be, you know, I wonder if she had the flu or something, because she's usually a pretty dynamic performer. I'm not a fan. I don't really like her music all that much, although I thought Ray of Light was fantastic just as a standalone. But yeah, I thought that she was either sick or I think she was carrying a cane. I wonder if she was in a great amount of pain. I don't know. But she was maybe the low point in that whole thing. Whereas, you know, the other geese bags got up there and just rocked it. Watching Stevie Wonder, it was just awesome. McCartney doing new stuff with Dave Grohl. There was a lot I thought to recommend the Grammys. And when we get a chance, and we're going to do this in just a few minutes, my friend Jeff Moore, who you probably knew him as Slash whenever he and I worked together, he was one of the couples that got married last night. And I knew about it before, but only because, you know, he had told me, I guess, after the Grammys, said it was okay to go ahead and start talking about it. And at first I thought, you know, that's going to be weird, though, getting married that way. And then I realized you're getting married in front of Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. You're getting serenaded by them. You've got Madonna there, which is just cool. I mean, let's face it. Queen Latifah. Yeah, I'm going to call that a win for Jeff. So we're going to ask him what that was like, because he and his then fiance Jamie, they just live right down in IB, and they ended up traveling to the Grammys to be one of those couples that got married. I know that there were some people who were really offended by it. I'm not, because I'm not offended by anything where people actually like each other and are trying to do something nice for each other. I don't care if it was a stunt by the Grammys. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. And the Macklemore and Ryan Lewis song, Same Love, is written about an uncle of his who is homosexual and is it's just, you know, asking, why is he different? And I think it's a very heartfelt song, and I thought it was really wonderful. But I know that there were some people who were offended by the weddings. It was just a publicity stunt. Like I said, we're going to talk to one of the grooms, Jeff Moore, my old producer Slash, is coming on at 12:20, and I can't wait to talk to him about it, because he's the kind of guy that gets psyched and then climbs the walls because he's so psyched. I imagine we're in for a little bit of that at 12:20 here on News Radio 600 KOGO.
Celebrate their vows with us here in Los Angeles, and everyone watching around the world as witnesses. It is my distinct honor to now ask our participants to exchange rings to signal their commitment to one another and to a life shared together with the music of love. Will you please exchange rings? Do you each declare?
That's Queen Latifah at the Grammys last night. You know, was it a publicity stunt by the Grammys? Sure. Do I care? No. No, especially because a friend of mine actually was there and handed his wedding ring off to his new wife. And I'm so pleased to have him on. Jeff Moore is with us here on News Radio 600 Kogo. Jeff!
Good day, LaDonna.
So what's it like being married? You feel any different?
No, but I'll tell you what, when you were playing that Queen Latifah, I was getting goosebumps.
Well, yeah, that had to be amazing. Now, your fiance was Jamie. She is now, I guess, your wife officially. And
Yep.
how did you even get involved in this, first of all?
It came from an email from a casting call. You know, they're like, hey, we're looking for engaged couples. And I'm like, hey, we just got engaged. Let's see what happens. And they sent us an email back. They're like, we'd like you to do this event. We can't tell you what it is or anything like that, but you can be married. I'm like, I don't know. And I'm talking to Jamie about it, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. What do you think for a sense of adventure? And about 3 weeks later, they sent us email. They're like, okay, write the secrecy right there.
I know.
And we're like, okay. And then they're like, hey, you're going to get married at the Grammys.
Nice. Now, did you get to meet anybody while you were there?
We actually met Queen Latifah. She actually signed our marriage license. So, I mean, it was a totally legit thing. She's actually an ordained priest. As we're walking down the aisle, after we said our adieus, I high-fived Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, and Neil Patrick Harris. I mean, it was pretty surreal.
I can totally see you doing that just because I know you so well. I mean, God, yeah, only you. So now, did you get to watch any of the performances outside of that, or did they just sort of have you guys in a little area?
Well, we had a tent, and the Grammys were on. But I think the best thing was during dress rehearsal, we actually got to sit with Metallica and watch that whole entire performance with just us in the building.
Oh,
I mean, it was
nice!
It was like our solo performance for Metallica for all 33 couples. So it was pretty awesome.
Oh man! So your wedding was actually better than mine, and I thought mine was pretty rocking.
Yeah, I mean, we met at Burning Man, got married at the Grammys. I'm not sure if anybody can really top that.
No, I'm pretty sure they can't. Well, listen, Jeff, where are you guys going on your honeymoon? Do you have one planned out yet?
Not at all. We're actually about to have breakfast in Laguna Beach right now, and on our way back to San Diego, and we're going to figure out when we're going on a honeymoon.
Oh, breakfast at 12:30? No. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Well, listen, give our best to your new wife, Jamie, and we will plan on talking to you soon.
All right, thanks, LaDonna.
All right, that's Jeff Moore, my old producer here at Kogo, and he was one of the grooms at the wedding. It was same-sex couples, it was opposite-sex couples, it was people of different colors. It was just, I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool. LaDonna here on News Radio 600 Kogo and iHeartRadio at Kogo.com. If you log on to Kogo.com, keyword big game, because we can't say the S word, big game, you can enter the $10,000 big game giveaway. You know which big game I'm talking about? Yeah, that one. And a $500 big game tailgate party courtesy of Big Ben Specialty Market, which, by the way, has a fantastic selection of wine. You can trust me on this one. Their wine director is fantastic. So that's now open in National City. Kogo.com, keyword big game, enter the $10,000 big game giveaway and a $500 big game tailgate party from Big Ben Specialty Market. So divorce. We were just talking about marriage and the wedding at the Grammys and some of the highlights. My biggest problem was at the end, Trent Reznor getting cut off. Because I'm a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan, and Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails was singing. I could not believe that I didn't get to watch that whole performance. Somewhere there has to be a video of that whole performance, right? If somebody could find that for me, I would really like to see that. So Trent Reznor was not a happy camper over getting cut off there at the end. There are a couple of other things going on that I want to talk to you about, and the local issue that we have with politics, with monies that were going to political action committees from a foreign national in a very highly illegal manner. And there's a story on the website talking about this guy who worked in San Diego campaigns. He worked for more than 160 politicians and groups across the country. Ravneet Singh is his name. 41 years old, companies based in D.C. He built websites, he collected internet contributions, arranged computerized telephone calls on behalf of people that include Jesse Jackson Jr., Marco Rubio, Charlie Crist, Newt Gingrich, John Boehner. This guy was a political gun for hire. The Republican Party of Minnesota, the presidential campaign of former Representative Duncan Hunter, they were both top customers. They spent about $100,000 each on this guy. This is according to a review that the Watchdog on the UT did of 12 years of financial disclosures. So Ravneet Singh Ravi Singh is at the center of this tainted money going to campaigns. And as I was bouncing around, looking at the news today, I saw a poll in the Washington Post. And it said, Washington Post ABC poll shows decline in trust of public officials. Well, no kidding. And they're really talking about national politics, but does it really matter? The chicanery that we've seen here in San Diego, has it left a bad taste in your mouth? See, I think this is why people don't show up for elections. It's why they don't vote. It's why they're not excited about it. Because you get, a candidate who may or may not have your best interest at heart. I am unlikely to trust anybody in politics, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people feel that way. President Obama's approval is at about 46%, which leads me to wonder about that 46%. I don't get it. You've been lied to, and I guess it doesn't matter to you. That's up from a low of 42% in November. But for the first time on the eve of a State of the Union address, which is tomorrow, more Americans rate his performance negatively than positively. 50% disapprove of the president. His previous low at the start of a new year was 48% positive, 48% negative in 2012. And it's not just the president, by the way. It's the president and the only one going down this ugly little road. Republicans and Democrats in Congress, nobody trusts them either. And it's, people like this guy, Ravi Singh, who are at the heart of this distrust of politicians, people that are funneling money illegally to people to get them elected, and they feel perfectly okay with it. I am sure he is 41 years old. His character is fully developed. I am sure he feels perfectly fine with illegally giving people money in campaigns. It's all the rest of us that don't feel fine about it. And that's fueling an awful lot of distrust. Family court takes a hit in a new movie. It's called Divorce Corp. The filmmaker is from San Diego, and he is joining us at 12:35 to explain why he made this film. And I'll ask him, hey, is this a biased view? Because that's what one attorney here in San Diego says. That's coming up at 12:35. News Radio 600 Kogo. It's LaDonna on News Radio 600 Kogo on iHeartRadio at Kogo.com. Every time I mention family court in San Diego, I get email after email after email from people who have been through the ringer in family court. Now, I'm not saying that all of family court is terrible, but I am saying that there are terrible things that happen. A divorce in and of itself is a nasty, awful, horrible thing to have to go through. You add kids to it and their lives are adversely affected. Nobody here gets out alive, I think is the best way to put it with divorce. Nobody does. But are there parts of our divorce court that are more about money than actually, family court being for families? There is a new movie out. It's called Divorce Corp, as in corporation, so Divorce Corp. And that movie was made by Joseph. And Joseph, I don't know if I've got your last name right. Sorge?
That's right.
Oh, my God. I can't believe it. That almost never happens, for what that's worth. Joseph, first of all, why did you make this movie? Because it really does attack family court.
Well, I think you set it up extremely well. I had an experience in family court, and while my personal experience turned out okay, it wasn't fun, but it turned out okay. What I saw in the courtroom was shocking. How the judges treated the litigants there. I thought they were shuffled in and out like cattle. They were treated very rudely. It's almost like they were going to jail when they were in family court. And so I had switched careers and decided I wanted to make a film, and this seemed like a very interesting topic to research. And after just a few weeks of research, I realized there was a lot here for a documentary.
And so now Divorce Corp, I know that it was playing in Fashion Valley for a little while. Is it still there, or is it still here in San Diego? So if somebody wanted to go see it, they could do that?
No, it's now playing at a few select theaters around the country. It did okay in San Diego, but not great, so we didn't keep it on. But it's in a few select theaters around the country, and it's about to come out on iTunes and DVD in a couple of weeks.
Okay, and let's just, let's delve into this story of Divorce Corp, because you make it sound like, this family court is almost a corporation.
Well, it's a government entity, but did you know you're not entitled to an attorney if you can't afford one? You have to pay. The laws are so incredibly complex. If you look at the family code, it's 2,000 pages long of thin print. And, the average citizen doesn't know how to interpret that. The words are very complicated. The procedures are very complicated. So essentially, if you can afford it, you should hire an attorney, because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark. And yet you have to pay for that attorney. You're not entitled to a jury in family court. You're not entitled to the transcript of the hearing unless you pay for it. You have to pay court costs. And sometimes the judges will order custody evaluations by psychological experts, financial evaluations by accountants, and sometimes the judge will even hire a lawyer for your children, and you have to pay that lawyer's bills. And when we add it all up, it's about $50 billion with a B, $50 billion a year in the United States.
Boy, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and why should our government cause there to be a transfer of wealth from the middle class to a rich class of attorneys and experts and judges for something that really should be, I think should be eliminated. I'm pretty radical about this, but I think we don't need it at all. But if we do have it, why isn't the government paying for it instead of causing the middle class, for the most part, to pay $50 billion a year to these wealthy professionals?
Now, I had an attorney on last week. Joseph Sorge is with us. He's the director of Divorce Corp, which is a movie that takes on family court. And she had mentioned that, there is mediation out there. You can get a divorce without having to get attorneys, but it requires both people to be on board.
You just said it. And it's really, I love mediation. I think it's great. I think it's the way that these things should be settled. People should sit down in a room with a neutral party, someone who's very compassionate, and they should work out how to split up, how to divide the assets, what the custody schedule should be for the children, et cetera. I think mediation is fantastic. But there's one major problem, and that is the court, first of all, has to approve the outcome of the mediation, so a judge gets to chime in at the end as to whether the judge thinks it's an acceptable outcome. But the courts also provide an incentive to one of the parties to litigate rather than mediate. And especially the divorce attorneys sometimes say, you can mediate and compromise, or you could go to court and win more. And guess what? Sometimes the other side is paying your legal fees, so it doesn't cost you anything. And so we have this great temptation to go to court and battle instead of mediate. And that's why I believe mediation hasn't become the primary solution in the United States. What typically happens in the United States is people will start battling. People are told you have to protect your interests. It could be very rough, and the outcomes are unpredictable. So you have to protect your interests and hire an attorney. And then if that attorney is an aggressive litigator, they take you down this path that's, I think, very destructive. And so, I think that if we reform the laws where litigation is not the primary mode of resolution of these family matters, mediation will be the way we do it.
Well, I know that, unfortunately in divorces, emotions are running so high a lot of times. And I've seen this happen time and time again. Somebody's bent on vengeance, and that vengeance is extracted financially. And I think you're absolutely correct in that we've got to get that issue out of it, and mostly because it's so terrible for kids.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that when, as you say, when you split up, usually someone is upset. And if the government holds this carrot out for them and say, hey, how'd you like to get revenge against the other side by dragging them into court? You hear these phrases all the time, taking so-and-so to the cleaners. And so the government is actually endorsing a family battle. And guess who gets caught in the middle? The children. And so what happens is that, in family court these days, the more time the judge awards you to have your children, the more child support you either you receive, or the less child support you pay. And so the payor is incentivized to get financially incentivized to get time with the children because it'll lower the child support payments. The recipient is incentivized to get time with the children because it will increase the child support payments.
Right.
And so people get into a financial tug of war with the children in the middle over child support. And it's just incredibly destructive to families.
Well, and then, and you have the occasional person who will come up and, suddenly their partner is a sex abuser or is physically abusive when they never were before, but suddenly they are. And then that plays into it as well. And that's another thing, how kids get drug into the middle, especially if one partner or both are bent on a kind of a vengeance, getting some sort of extraction from the other guy that includes a really big bit of financial help.
Yeah, this is a very difficult part of the whole system, and I don't have a solution here. But the rub here is that sometimes there's real abuse going on, there's real sexual abuse going on, and that's terrible, and it's
right.
a heinous crime, and I believe it should be treated. It should be handled in criminal court, not in family court, because it's a crime, and you really should have some, big muscle behind the enforcement of these crimes. Yet today, it gets handled in family court. Now, and that means one judge, no jury. The judge is very overwhelmed with a lot of work to do, doesn't have time to really dig into the details. Rules of evidence don't apply, and it really becomes a bit of a circus because the judge is faced with, is this a real accusation of molestation or domestic violence, or is this being made up to gain tactical advantage in the divorce? And so it puts these family court judges in a terrible dilemma. And I think that, I have some fairly radical reforms for the family courts, but I think if we take the money out of the battle so that people cannot win money based on how much time they get with their children,
right,
then the financial motivation for making false accusations will go away. And then those accusations that we hear, we can believe that they have more credibility to them than the situation we have today.
Well, you know what? Write me an email, Joseph, whenever you're out on iTunes, because I'd like to watch it. I've not been through, knock on wood, I've not been through a divorce, so this is completely alien stuff to me, but I've watched friends go through it and just seen some really horrible, awful things.
Yep.
All right. Well,
people don't realize how prevalent this is, but if you go to our Facebook site, Facebook Divorce Corp, you'll see there's thousands and thousands of testimonials of people saying this is exactly what happened to me.
Right.
I lost my children, I lost my finances, I went bankrupt, etc. The lawyers, and let me just say, I think most lawyers are good and most judges are good. This is not to say that these are bad people. I think it's a bad system. And unfortunately, the outcome of the system, the way it drives things, is toward bankruptcy and loss of children. And that's the worst outcome for families that are trying to restructure their lives and move forward in a productive way.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to put a link up on the website at Koga.com, keyword LaDonna. We've got the trailer for the film there. And as soon as it comes out, we'll pass that along for folks as well. Joseph, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. Joseph Sorg, who is the director of Divorce Corp. And he's a San Diego guy who underwent a divorce, and apparently a pretty nasty one here in San Diego. So apparently they can quit us. Gun makers, that is. Oh, and you know how you can park downtown at the meters after 6 p.m. and you don't have to worry about it? Well, say bye-bye. The greedy hand of San Diego is reaching deeply into your pocket once again at 12:50 on News Radio 600 Kogo. Okay, so I will admit that the new Mustang, while not a Corvette Stingray, is a good-looking car. I will fess up to this, but $300,000 worth of good looking? My brother, no. Well, here's the deal. The 2015 Ford Mustang, the first one that rolled off the showroom, rolled off the line and into the showroom, somebody spent $300,000 to be the first one to own it. This new 2015 Ford Mustang. And everybody went, what? Well, it turns out it was for charity. So this guy wanted the first Mustang, but he also donated $300,000 for charity. It's a beautiful, beautiful blue color. Just throwing that out there in case you're wondering. That's definitely my favorite of all the colors, is that pretty blue. So yeah, $300,000 to get the first Ford Mustang. Keeping in mind, of course, you could buy a Ferrari for that, is all I'm saying. But no, you know what? I like these. I like the American muscle cars a whole lot better. I just do. I'm a sucker for it. So it's LaDonna here on News Radio 600 Kogo, on iHeartRadio at Kogo.com. There I was minding my own business. And I picked up a newspaper, and man, was I sorry in about 3 seconds, because I could not believe it when I read below the fold in Friday's UT San Diego. You're going to have to pay longer to park downtown. You're going to have to pay until 8 p.m. So, with most of our parking meters, remember when a quarter actually bought 15 minutes? Okay, so grandma here, I do remember that. And you could get a good hour's, worth of parking for one slim dollar. And it didn't seem terribly out of line. But now, of course, it takes you, something like $4 to stay parked for the full 2 hours that you're allowed to park there. The idea being, of course, that anything that you're going to do downtown will probably take longer than 2 hours, or you will space out if you don't set an alarm on your phone. And then the city gets to give you a parking ticket, which is, of course, way more lucrative than any money that goes in the meter. But yeah, saw this one beginning next month. Parking meters in downtown San Diego in the restaurant and bar packed hospitality zone. So yes, my friend, you are being targeted. Will be enforced between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. instead of the current dinner-friendly hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you go to a nice restaurant anywhere in San Diego, there's a good chance you're going to park. You're trying to get there a few minutes early. You might have to wait for your table. So you're going to have a cocktail or whatever before. And pretty soon it's 2.5, 3 hours. And the city of San Diego is thinking, we're going to get us some money from these folks. So the fines for the 2-hour meters have not changed. Oh, goody. What is it, about $50 for parking at an expired meter? It's somewhere between 40 and 60, I believe. I haven't had a parking ticket, knock on wood, in quite some time. If I was a downtown business, I would be losing my mind. I would lose my mind. Because what is the biggest turnoff whenever you go somewhere when a bad thing happens? And I would put a parking ticket as a bad thing because it's money. I remember once saying, gosh, my $50 haircut turned into $90 one day because it took longer than we thought to do my hair. And so I told my hairdresser, I'm like, I will come in here the moment you are ready for me. I am not parking a second before I absolutely have to. And I want out fast. So figure out a way to do my hair very quickly because I'm never getting a parking ticket for this again. And we've all been through that, haven't we? You walk out and you go, really? Really? I just spent, $150, $200 on a really nice meal downtown at a Citra or another one of the great restaurants down there. And then I come out to this. So I'm being punished for spending my money and giving San Diego tax dollars? How does that work exactly? So yeah, San Diego, if you feel fingers in your back pocket, it's the city of San Diego trying to lift your wallet. They'll be leaving warnings on windshields through February 28th, and parking violators will get fines beginning March 3rd. So You know what I would do? I would just go downtown and I would park for a very long time until March 2nd. And then I would never go again. And I don't mean that as a diss on the businesses downtown. Downtown San Diego is great, and I never go because I can't park. And it drives me absolutely insane. It makes me crazy that I cannot park in downtown San Diego. Take the trolley. If I wanted to take the trolley, sunshine, I'd take the trolley. I don't. I want to be in my car where I can go from point A to point B exactly when I want to. My schedule, not everybody else's. Is that snobby? No, it really isn't. I just want to be able to go where I want to go. Don't you? Gun manufacturers are quitting California. Some pistols are going to not be headed this way. Smith & Wesson and Ruger are going to not send some of their weapons here, which, you know, if you're one of those people that hates guns, you're going, yay. It's over the micro stamping. So on the hammer of the gun, there's supposed to be this micro stamp that's supposed to tell you, you know, where the gun, who the gun is registered to, et cetera. And it's supposed to mark the bullets with that. Well, you know, there's a number of studies that have showed that micro stamping doesn't work. It serves no safety purpose. It's cost prohibitive, and it's not a proven aid in either preventing or solving crimes. So Smith & Wesson and Ruger are saying, no, you know what? Those guns that have to have those micro stamps, we're just not going to send them to California. Oh, boy.
ParentalRights.us.